It's your open source advocate, and I'm back with another video. This week I want to talk about a different topic, and I've got a lot of clips that I've made over the last couple of months where I've done some different testing. But I have a mesh Wi-Fi system in my home, and you'll see on one of the videos kind of how that's laid out and where my property, how my property is laid out. But I have an office out in my backyard area that's about 45 to 50 feet from the back of my house, the exit from the back of my house. So here in my room, I'm probably about, 80 to 100 feet from there. So it's a little bit of a distance for me to work out in my office and have Wi-Fi, and at the same time have Wi-Fi here in my room and have Wi-Fi in the front part of my yard or anywhere else where I might be outside but need access to the internet through my phone. So I've been using mesh since I moved here, and I set up Eero, which at the time was one of the better reviewed mesh systems. And I have to say, I was very, very happy with it. Still am. But about a year and a half in, Amazon bought Eero. Now maybe Amazon just said, hey, that's a cool business, they're making money, let's buy them. I don't know, but I get the feeling that eventually, if not already, Amazon's going to be using that to push advertisements to me through my own Wi-Fi system, which I don't like. I'm an open source advocate. I believe in open source software, and I'm super excited about something when I see it. So I started looking around for mesh alternatives, and I'm going to tell you now, there's a lot of them out there, and I'm trying to learn more about Batman ADV, which is a mesh system. There's one called Toronto Mesh, which is fairly easy to set up and install on a Raspberry Pi. Both of those you can set up on Raspberry Pis in several different ways. The problem is I don't have enough networking knowledge to know how to get those set up and then do the actual networking. I can get the mesh talking on both of those setups pretty easily, and I can ping other mesh devices between each of those things. But then connecting to one of those devices, a hotspot, and having it push traffic through the mesh over to other hotspots or out to the main gateway router, that takes a little bit more knowledge than I've got today, so I'm learning. All that said, I came across this site, FreeMesh, which is for free, stable, secure Wi-Fi, and I was pretty interested. They've got a little cartoony kind of video here. It doesn't really give you any information. It just tells you, hey, here's what mesh is and here's why you might need it. They got a couple of drawings that explain it, some pretty basic stuff. Now, they do have a system that does 4G LTE. I did not purchase that version, but I did move down here to the purchase site, and I purchased the non-LTE version, which is basically this one. So you get the main gateway and two nodes, I guess is what we should call these, two mesh nodes in the main mesh gateway. So the way this works is these two guys come up, and they either connect to each other or to the mesh or to all three, to the gateway or to all three, or to, all to each other, and it's should find the best and most efficient route out to the internet for your devices and back, and the best route for your devices to talk to each other on your internal network and things like that. I don't know that that's happening. I would hope that it's the way that it's set up. I don't, honestly, I just don't know enough about how these are set up to know, but I feel like it's set up in a mesh. I've tried to do some checking. So these run OpenWRT. If you've not seen OpenWRT, I'll show you the interface here in just a minute. This one just has 4G LTE, so it has a little slot on the side where you can put a SIM card, and basically this guy becomes your Wi-Fi hotspot for your LTE signal, and then you get two mesh hotspots where you can share that signal as well. This one's just coming off a normal modem, which is my normal house modem. So I'm going to go through a few tests, and I'm going to show you the difference between what I get for speeds from Eero versus what I get for speeds from FreeMesh, and kind of let you judge for yourself whether you'd be interested in something like FreeMesh. So here I'm going to test the speed of my Eero mesh setup. I've got an SSH into my machine out in my office, so I'm going to run the speed test here in the terminal on that machine first, and we can see what kind of speeds we get out in my office, which is about 100 feet from the actual modem and main router. Once that's done, we'll switch to the other terminal, which is the machine that I'm currently on, and we'll see what kind of speeds we get from it, and basically just make sure that everything looks the same or similar, which it should when we're running on a mesh network like this. So I'm going to run the speed test just a couple of times here, just to make sure that we're getting the same speeds or similar speeds each time that I run it. So it'll also pick a different location occasionally to test with. So that just gives us a little bit of variation in what we're getting from our speed test going back and forth using the command line here. As you can see from the first two tests there, we got pretty consistent speeds from my office, which is about 48 megabits per second download, and that's kind of the bigger number that I'm worried about. That's the number that I want to know that I'm going to be able to have good download speeds out in my office when I'm doing my work, which is almost 100% online. Online meetings, online everything, especially connecting back to offices where there are remote machines that I have to do any kind of remote testing and things like that on as well. So it's really important to me that I get good speeds from this mesh system. So here inside on this iMac that I'm running with Linux, you can see that I'm getting a little bit better speeds, but not so tremendously better that it would just really make me say, oh man, I need to move back inside for my office. I mean, it's better, but 48 megabits per second is pretty decent for the work that I'm doing, and 60 megabits per second isn't really a surprising speed. So either way, I'm pretty happy with the way that the Eero mesh performs. Okay, I've set up the new FreeMesh wireless router and 2 nodes. So to be clear with my Eero, I have 3 nodes. So I want to bring up the image that I showed of my home and my setup. So I've set up my FreeMesh wireless router with the main system and 2 nodes. So to be kind of clear, when I set up my Eero, which has the main connector and then 3 nodes, so I have my main connector and it's right about here in my home, and then I have a node that's in this same exact spot, and then I have a node here at the front side of the house that's right around here, and then I have my final node that's out here in the office, and it has Ethernet, two Ethernet ports that I can then use to put wired connections if I need to. This node and this node are both the completely wireless kind that you just plug into the wall and they do their thing. So that's kind of the setup that I have with Eero. With the FreeMesh, it's only got 2 nodes. So I've got the main connection here, the main network router here, and then I've got a node here that has 4 Ethernet ports and a node here that has 4 Ethernet ports as well. So I don't have that fourth one over here. So I have a security camera here in the front, or a couple of them, and I have a Ring doorbell here in the front, so I have to kind of check and see how those run as well. But just to be clear, this is a 4-node Eero versus a 3-node FreeMesh. But I did set it up for my office to get connectivity to my office to kind of make all these hops. So this is about 45 feet, and then you're talking another 30 feet over to the main router. So that's why I have all of these connections, because I want to really cover my entire yard. And then I've also, keep in mind my open sprinkler system that I've done a video on before is actually over here on this wall. So that kind of connects pretty well to my main router, but there's some plumbing and things like that in between those things. So again, just something to keep in mind. Alright, we'll get this speed test going here. Again, I'm starting on the machine out in my office. This time, of course, being connected to the FreeMesh system. Now, as always, when I showed you the speed test CLI before, it's going to go out, select a location, do do a download test first, then it'll do the upload test, so we get both speeds whenever we run this. And I'll run it a couple of times just to get kind of a good idea of what might happen, just in case we hit a bad node for some reason or something like that, just to make sure we're getting fairly valid results. So on the first test, it's already less than half. It's almost a fourth the speed that I get with Eero. So here you can see that, again, it's running, but it's running a little bit slower, it seems like. So we'll see kind of what it comes up with the second set of numbers. This is, again, my machine out in my office that I have to have some pretty decent speeds for a lot of things that I do for my work. And this time a little bit lower with 11 megabits and a little bit over 3 megabits. Now we'll test it from this machine here, the iMac that runs Linux, and it's a little bit closer to the main node that's connected here inside directly to the modem and the internet. So we'll see what we get here for speeds as well. So that's a little bit better. That's much more on par with what I saw from the Eero side. So hitting around 60 megabits per second, 50, 55. But still really low on the upload speed, and I'm not sure why. Still only getting about 3 megabits per second on the upload side. So we'll run it here one more time and kind of see if we get any difference or any change in the way that it gets those speeds back. Again, it feels like it's running a little bit faster here on the download side, which is what I'm looking for and what I'd really like to have from this entire mesh system. Yeah, so this one we broke 160 megabits per second. That's pretty fast. So still way down on the upload speed, which is odd, but definitely something that's worth looking at. So the main node seems to be able to do okay occasionally. Alright, so doing these mesh tests, I wanted to test something with Eero and with the free mesh. So right now I've got Eero set up and I'm using my Eero network. So you can see I've got two terminal windows open. This one is SSH'd into my work machine out of my office, which again is about 45 feet, you know, however many yards, meters that is, you know, so it's got a little distance from wherever the first node is, but I've got a node out in the office actually as well. So I'm going to do a little speed test between the machine that I'm on, which is this terminal, and that machine, and I'm going to use iPerf for that. So I'm going to use IP, switch to the right terminal. So I'm going to set up the one out there as the server, iPerf-S. So that'll start a server on that machine, and it's kind of listening. Here I'm going to do iPerf-C for client, and I'm going to give it the IP address of that machine. So it's 192.168.7.215. And it's going to send off some signals, and it's going to do some things to give us some speed ratings back. So it just takes a few seconds for it to run these tests, and when it's done, it'll come back and kind of show me the information that it gets. Sometimes the two systems differ a little bit. There you go. It didn't take very long, but so we got, you know, 30.0 megabytes per second, or 35.5 megabytes, and it did 29.2 megabits per second. So I'm on a 200 megabit internet connection. So between these two machines, using Wi-Fi on both, I'm getting 29.2 megabits. And on this side, it says 28 megabits. So we could just run that one more time and make sure that everything's right. And of course, if you really wanted to do this well, you'd run it about 10 times and get some kind of average, right? So we'll let it run again here, just see how it kind of runs, and we'll get an idea of what kind of speeds we're getting between those two machines. I don't believe anybody is using anything else right now online on my network. I don't have anything running on these two machines other than maybe some syncing. You know, there's always a little file sync process running, but nothing should be syncing because I haven't saved anything new lately. So here now you can see it's 16.4 megabits. So let's run it again. So I mean, obviously it depends on when you run it and what's going on as to how much you're going to get for bandwidth. So we'll run it a third time here and kind of see where we hit. And you can chart this out and do an average, those kind of things. So this one got 24 megabits. So I mean, we're hitting anywhere between 16 and 29. So this, you can kind of see what's going on between two machines on your network and get an idea of what your speeds are. So I can just control out of these. What we'll do next is we'll set up the FreeMesh Wireless, and we'll do the same test between these two machines. Okay, I've switched over this machine and my machine in my office to this new FreeMesh network that I've created. So I've got basically the system up here that I'm just scanning for the IPs. So here's 192.168.1 instead of .7, which is my normal network. So I'm just going to hit close here, and I want to find these machines. So you can see this is the local area network that's being created with OpenWRT, which is something we'd expect. It's 1.1. And then 248 is the machine I'm on, and 215 is the machine out there in my office. So instead of 7, it's going to be 1. So I'm going to do SSH at and yes. Okay, so we're logged into that machine now. And we're going to kind of do the same thing that we did before. So I'll just get rid of this. We're going to do an iPerf, and we'll set the office machine as the server. So iPerf-S. So it starts listening. And then we'll do iPerf-C, and we'll put in the office machine IP address. And then we'll let it kind of run a speed test. Now again, we'll run this 2 or 3 times to kind of see what type of speeds we're getting. So first time out, that's not great. 898 kilobits a second on bandwidth, and these are the only 2 machines on this system. So I'm just not getting the speeds that I would hope when we start looking at this mesh. I mean, it doesn't feel at all like it's doing mesh networking to me. And the way I've got it set up is my main node is here in the room, very close to my main Eero node. So the main router, and then I've got a node out in my living room close to the back wall, about the same spot as my one of my Eero nodes. And then I've got the other node for FreeMesh out in my office, sitting on the desk right next to the Eero node that's out there. It doesn't feel like these are communicating like a mesh. The router might be communicating to the nodes, and maybe that's the issue, and I don't have the router out in the living room, so I'll go move it here in a minute. But let's run this again just to see if it was a quirk. We'll give it a couple of tries here. Yeah, even slower that time. We'll give it one more shot. And it's getting slower as we go, so that is not helping my confidence any. Okay, I've gone and switched those 2 pieces, so the router is now further away and the node is here in the room with me. And I'm back on this machine. So I will do iPerf-S again. And then over here we'll do the same thing. We'll let that run. Oop, wrong IP address. That's not going to work. I was so close. There we go. .1, not .7. There it goes. Alright, that's a little bit better. 3.02 megabits per second. So it is apparently running much more like a hub and spoke network, and not the way that you would think, which would be each node can talk to each other. Yeah, getting much better speeds now. Now the issue is that my modem is here in my room. not out in the living room. So that's something I would have to move and make adjustments and things like that if I wanted to continue using the FreeMesh. Okay, so currently I am connected to my Eero system, and the way you can tell is that it's MacG NG. And I'll just show you real quick the other system, and it should come up here in a second. It has FM in the name. It's still the same. It's a similar name, but it says FM for FreeMesh. So here you can see MacG FM 5G. Both main routers are in the same room as me. They're about 10 feet away. So you can see they get similar signal strength, everything like that, which is fine. But first I'm going to run a test. This is kind of my last time testing this. I'm going to run this test first on this system here, which is my current Eero system. So we'll just leave it on Eero, and I'm going to go to speed of .me. It's just got a little graphical user interface here, and we're going to say start the test, and it's going to do a download test, and then it's going to do an upload test. And I'm connected 100% wirelessly. I am not connected in any way through a wired connection. So I want you to kind of see what's going on here. Now I get 200 megabit per second internet from my ISP. So that should give you where our baseline sits. So that's why you're seeing 176 megabits right now. That's what I get just from my ISP, a little bit below what I would get if I was connected directly to the modem, I imagine. And then my upload is always limited because they don't want you running servers from your home. So 12 megabits, 13 megabits nearly. So this is Eero. Okay, so Eero got 176 and 52, and on the upload it got, 176.52, and on the upload it got 12.72. So I'm going to switch out real quick. I'm just going to hit enter to refresh the page, and I'm going to go change networks. The way this is set up is both routers or both mesh networks are set up to go out through the same modem. They're both using the same main gateway, so they should get similar speeds. With no real issues there. So we'll see what we get here with this next test. Let me get this and make sure it switched the way I want. It didn't, so that's one thing to check, is make sure you get on the network you wanted to get on. There we go. Now we're on the right network, okay? So I'm just going to refresh the page here. That didn't seem to take any effort at all. And we're going to run the test. This is what I keep seeing, and I've been seeing all along, is that I don't get the speeds that I would expect here. And you can see the difference. I mean, 176 and 31. This is a massive difference on what I'm getting speed-wise. But here you see that my upload speed is about the same. So I don't know why the download speed is so different on this particular Wi-Fi router. It just is not comparing even close to what you would expect you should get. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to plug in a wire from this actual FreeMesh main router, and I'm going to try it with a wired connection and see if the speed is any different. Because I want to know, is the Wi-Fi that's the issue, or is it the actual router that's not able to route the traffic fast enough? There's got to be something else going on there. So let me get that set up, and then we'll come back and check it out. Okay, so I actually had to literally move my machine a little bit just to make the Ethernet cable reach so that I could get this set up. So it took me a couple of minutes, but I did get it connected, and it's connected now through Ethernet. So you can see that here, and I've turned off the Wi-Fi, so it's turned off. So we're going to do this completely through Ethernet, and we're just going to refresh the page, and we'll start the test again. Okay, so this definitely tells me that it is not the router itself. The router itself has the capability to push plenty of traffic, because now I'm getting faster than I had on the Eero wireless. Now this is, of course, connected through an Ethernet cable. So it's an Ethernet cable from the modem out to the router, and then the router to my machine, which you would expect it to be faster, and this is just limited by my ISP at this point. And then, 13 is what we've seen every time. But this tells me that the router is capable of handling these speeds. It's something to do with the Wi-Fi. So here's kind of our OpenWRT starting page, which is pretty standard, I think, for most. I think this is the Lucy graphical user interface. So you can kind of see what's going on here. So we've got this 802.11BGN. Maybe I need to change that to not be that. I don't know. It should be AC. Okay, so I have two different radios. I have the 2.5 gigahertz and the 5 gigahertz. So this is just different frequencies that are available on those things. But I was connected to the 5 gigahertz, which tells me that should have been in AC, or at least in. So again, I'm not really sure why I'm not getting the speeds that I would expect from this. So if we go look at, I believe it's network, and we go to interfaces, we can see the different interfaces that are set up here. So we've got, it's using Batman, so Batman ADV, so Bat0 is set up. LAN, so the local area network includes the Ethernet adapter, the software VLAN, the wireless adapter, and a second wireless adapter. So we've got both wireless adapters, a VLAN that it's creating for all these, and then of course the Ethernet. The mesh, I'm guessing, is running on the wireless adapter. It doesn't say which one. So really these are the ones that we're mostly concerned about. So we've got Batman running, and then we've got this mesh that's running. And they both say unsupported protocol type, which is kind of standard when you actually set these up on OpenWRT, because I've done this on Raspberry Pis as well. Now I don't know enough about the networking that's going on to make all of this function, so I don't know. Maybe whoever put this together doesn't either, because that's why the Wi-Fi is slow. I don't know. It looks like it should be set up for mesh, so if any of you guys are OpenWRT experts, and especially mesh experts, tell me if you see something wrong with this setup or something that I could tweak to make this better. I did want to show this to you. I think it's great. I hope this project will continue. I hope that it'll become something bigger in the future, and really get that support that it needs, because it'd be wonderful to be able to go out and buy this thing at half the cost of Eero, or less, actually, almost a third the cost of Eero, and have similar speeds. Right now I'm buying it at a third the cost of Eero, and I'm getting about a fifth of the speed, unfortunately. So I'll stick with Eero for now, because I need that for my work, and I need the speeds that I get for my work. But I'll keep an eye out, and I'll keep testing with this and see what I can find. If you enjoyed this video, like, subscribe, tell your friends about it, and I'll have more videos for you coming very soon.